So I'm here to talk about a dirty word. Maybe not as dirty as the last speaker. However, it is a dirty word. It's a dirty word in our business culture. It's a dirty word in our political landscape. It's a dirty word when we think about associating ourselves with it. And that word is power. When we're seen as wielding power or wanting more of it, often we're called power hungry. We're on a power trip. We're domineering, forceful, egoic, right? So think of these names that we're called when we want to seek and wield more of it in our lives. And conversely, when we are seen wanting less of it or avoiding it, we're often labeled weak or irrelevant or mousy. And what I notice is that either way, we're kind of with this mixed bag. And to me, this word requires a makeover. We need to reclaim this word, right? So really, I look at the leaders of our time, and I want to see these new leaders. You know, what's the MLK of our generation look like, right? What's the Gandhi? What's the Nelson Mandela? What's the Mother Teresa, right? And I want to look to these leaders and see what it is that they're doing to harness all of us. Because what I see is that we're all in this together, and that it isn't going to be a man saving just the day. It's going to be all of us, billions of us, coming together. It's not the hero slaying and killing the enemy. It's all of us realizing how fundamentally powerful we really are, right? So I just want us to paint a roadmap for a much more broad face of power. So my name is Jennifer Russell, and I'm here to talk to you about integrated leadership, the 4 faces of incorruptible power. So what I notice is it's not very safe to be powerful, and there's good reason, right? We have this phrase, power corrupts. But I think it's going to require us to reclaim this power for us to create a world that actually works. But it doesn't have just one face. It's actually got at least these 4 faces that I want to talk to you about today. And this is a way more dimensional, multicultural vision of what I think power really is. And what I want you to do is really look to find yourself in one of these faces. See the one that feels comfortable to you, natural, that when you're in a powerful moment, you see yourself. But also look at the ones that feel unnatural, maybe scary, maybe confusing. So I want to give you this map. And so what is incorruptible power? When I say incorruptible, what do I mean? I see like myself growing up and many, many women and men. And what I noticed as we were trying to find our way in life is that we neither wanted to be too forceful, nor did we want to be too meek. And then we didn't want to make too much of ourselves, but we didn't want to be a wallflower, right? And so 1,000 pullbacks, I saw everyone trying to decide how to balance between 2 negative poles. And when we're 1,000 pullbacks away, then we are cutting ourselves off from all of our power, because nothing comes from you being less of yourself. The world doesn't need you to be less of anything. We need you all to be more of everything, right? Let's integrate all of it and have you be more so you can go as fast and as far in any direction as you can. So I want us to develop a definition of power that's not corruptible, but is trustable, right? A form of power that isn't like this delicate balance of negatives, but is a safe bet. That isn't that what throws us off in our culture, but is something that is our very compass, right? And so that's what I mean by incorruptible power. So let's reclaim this word, shall we? So it has many faces. And fundamentally, power is energy, right? We're all really at our core energy. And that energy has a shape and a form and a direction, right? We can feel it actually when we speak. Like, where are we sending our energy? Is it going outward or inward? Does it have a more masculine shape or a feminine shape? So here I see both. There's this masculine and feminine form of power. But that's not the only dimension that I see in power. I also see that there's like an active form, which is like more outward energy, and a more receptive form, which is energy coming inward. And here we create a way more interesting map of power. So let's start in the top quadrant, looking at each of these and see if you can find yourself here. All right, so the first is the active masculine, right? So this is penetration, right? This form of power I really got from my father. So my father was 6'4", Vietnam veteran, helicopter pilot, shot down hundreds of hours, medals all over the house. A formidable man, right? He walks in a room and you feel him, right? You know he's there. You know, I learned so much about power from watching him, because when he entered the room, everything aligned around what he was saying and doing. And that started this journey I had around mapping what created the most impact in any space I was in, with any person I was with. And so this was the first face of power that I learned about, this active masculine. And in my journey, I studied 8 styles of martial arts. This really showed me, like, how do you enter the space and penetrate it? And I don't just mean like with hostility or aggression. I mean the kind of power where you know who I am and what I stand for, right? When I enter the room, you know I'm there and you know exactly why. And if you won't go here, you ladies or you men, this is where I start. Because even though we have every reason to be scared of this form of power, because it's the only face that we tend to associate, it is, in its purest form, an incredibly powerful force, but not the whole story. So there's also the passive or receptive masculine. So what's that? So this is holding space. This is creating a safe space where you leave a breath. You leave a moment of silence. And in that silence is the potential for everything. It's a strong container. It's unassailable. It can hold any of our chaos, our beauty, our emotionality. All of it is safe. So this holding space allows for not us to be the main event, like the active masculine when we're filling the space. When we hold space as a form of power, as a form of receptive power, we're inviting you to be the main event. We're inviting the wisest part of you to come and flower and flourish, where you're your most creative, you're most alive. And that requires a moment of pause. You can imagine for a minute, now that we've got at least these 2 dimensions of power, that if all you were able to do is penetrate the space and fill every amount of energy in with who you are and what you think and what you want and your agenda, that's not quite as powerful as you would be if you were also able to take a step back and allow someone else to enter, right? Similarly, if you're unable to actually add yourself, your unique perspective, because all you do is listen to everyone else, then the world is missing your unique perspective, something that only you can bring because you have a unique vision of the world. And if you only will listen and won't insert who you are, then you're also leaving half your power on the table. But a man or a woman that will do both is multiplying their power. So can we see that? Yeah, right? But still, this is only half the story. So there's more. So next, we'll go in reverse order. This is the passive or receptive feminine. I'm really excited to talk about these next two because we often see the active masculine as the only face we look at when we look at our role models of power. But there is a force to be reckoned with the passive feminine. So if the active masculine is a penetration, the passive feminine is attraction. It's seduction, magnetism, drawing you in. It's Helen of Troy at 1,000 paces that could seduce and have warships launched just for who she was and the love and beauty of her. That is a force, and it is an invitational force that draws you in. If all you are is the active masculine and you don't know how to rally people towards you, rally people to enter and bring in towards your cause so that they just don't know why, but they just have to occupy the space you're in, if you leave that form of power out, then you are a maverick and all alone, even with your good ideas. So we need to use the power of love itself to draw us all in, to seduce us into the best versions of ourselves so that we join forces, right? MLK, when he spoke, rallied hundreds of thousands, even millions of people because of this passive or receptive feminine that just drew you in. You just had to come listen and hear and join him, right? And this I learned from my mother, this amazing force where she could just lift a hand and like magic, it seemed, things would just be a flurry all around her. And it wasn't causal. It didn't look causal. But there were 1,000 things that she was doing where things just kept popping up and manifesting all around her. So and it was amazing for me to watch because there's something I learned about power as I grew up in a household with the most extreme polarized father of the strength of a Vietnam pilot. And this mother who just was so inviting, bringing and drawing things in without lifting a finger. What I learned about power was that the greatest power requires the lightest touch. When we're powerful, we don't need to force or push or cajole. It's the forcing and pushing that's evidence of our lack of power, not our power, right? So we can bring that in. So that's the passive feminine. The receptive feminine is attraction and love, seduction. Don't marginalize your sexuality, women or men. Allow it to draw us in, but not just for yourself, but for a cause that's bigger than you. There's attraction. Here she is. Don't you want to sit right next to her? Whoops. There we go. So now the active feminine. So what is this? This mysterious active feminine. She is the force of creative expression herself. Wild, mysterious, intuitive. Now, what's so important about this face of power, to me, perhaps one of the most important, is that she creates power because she feels the entire field, not just what she wants, not just what her surrounding family wants, not just what her organization wants or needs. She feels what the entire planet needs. She is the system, the ecosystem of the planet. And she's feeling from that field and responding not just from her discriminative mind. Remember, the active masculine has an agenda that they figured out, discriminative mind. This is what I think and evaluate and compare and understand and create a plan around, and I know and I've got clarity. That's like active masculine. But the active feminine in the middle of a meeting says, stop. I know you want to keep going and get our goals on the board, But we're not going to get anywhere until the two of you trust each other. Because what I'm feeling is there's no trust. And the reason she's able to even stop the agenda, to react spontaneously, moment by moment to what's happening, is because she is feeling that field. It is a form of intelligence so much more vast than me or you. It is multiple simultaneous inputs all at once. Right? So this is an incredibly powerful energy that feels the field, that knows how to bring that energy in. And if you've ever been moved or inspired by someone who is creatively improvising moment by moment what the field is speaking and saying and giving it voice, those are some of the most powerful moments of our lives. So these are the 4 faces of power. What I want us to do as a human species, as a culture, is I want us all to find these faces in ourselves, identify the ones that are easy, identify the ones that we most need to develop so that we aren't just one kind of powerful. We have multiplied our power times 4, right? And that we're not just showing that active masculine, but we're really integrating all of them to become the best kinds of leaders that can truly lead, serve, and inspire anyone. So reclaim and integrate your power. And I just want to leave you with this. There's something I notice. Most of us, we live in our ivory tower, right? We're up in that tower, and maybe from that tower, we're making our pretty pictures and our vision boards. You know, maybe in that tower, we're outraged at the world and complaining about, how terrible it is. And maybe we're just up there waiting for a knight to come save us, someone else, right? And we think, no, well, let me wait until I feel the courage and the strength in order to go out there and charge and make my difference. But the problem with that, staying in that ivory tower, is all of the courage and bravery that you think you need before you can step down is not available in that tower. It requires you to step down from the tower so that your feet touch the earth. Direct contact, right? Direct contact. If you're upset about the way the political landscape looks, join a political party. Do something about it. Really go out in there. Find this kind of notion about you that where you realize that you're here to do great work. And I know you are. You're all here to do great work. Feel the sacred obligation to do that and bring all of you to bear. So I want you to not let another breath go by without doing that great work. I want you to leave every room permanently changed by what you believe and what you feel. And I also want every room you enter to change you. So thank you. It's a pleasure.